Hi, I'm Larry Bauer, Chief Executive Officer of the Family Medicine Education Consortium. And I just want to say, the United States needs more family physicians, a lot more family physicians. And the FMEC has been proud to be working with schools that are delivering. The two schools that you're going to learn about here are delivering family physicians, students to family medicine in incredible numbers. So we've had a long-standing relationship with Ross University and the American University of the Caribbean. Also, the two individuals that you're about to meet are people that I've known for a long time. Dr. Enrique Fernandez, I first met him when he was at HRSA in a leadership position more than a few years ago. And Dr. Julie Taylor, I had the wonderful opportunity actually to sit in her office at Brown University, where I first met her. She is also an FMEC award winner for the great work that she was doing there at Brown University. But let me go ahead and formally introduce you to them. Dr. Enrique Fernandez is Professor and Chair of Family Medicine and Assistant Dean of Clinical Science Education at Ross University. Dr. Julie Taylor is a Chief Academic Officer and Senior Associate Dean at the American University of the Caribbean, both long-standing family physicians and family physician leaders. And I'm really excited to be talking to the two of you today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Taylor, I believe, are you taking the lead?
I will, yes. Yes, thank you. This is just a bit of background. I know many family physicians around the United States, especially in academic medicine. I am trained and practice here in the Northeast, in the greater Boston area, with a long-standing opportunity to be on the faculty at Brown University. And I'm still in the residency faculty practice, clinical practice there, and live in Rhode Island. I joined AUC in 2014 and became the Chief Academic Officer in 2017. And there are really two reasons why I came to AUC. One is it's a single mission medical school. Its focus is medical education and medical students. And it's an incredible privilege to work at a school where that is the primary focus. And the second thing that drew me to AUC is the number of family physicians, that number of students who go into the specialty of family medicine. And we'll talk about that during this session.
Great. Good afternoon. And again, thanks to you, Larry, and the FMEC for allowing us an opportunity to tell our story. And I, along with Dr. Taylor, have enjoyed a great relationship with the FMEC, Family Medicine Education Consortium, both because we have similar missions in terms of getting family physicians into the workforce, increasing the number of family physicians practicing, but also to address healthcare disparities across the country and to take care of individuals, families, and communities as family physicians. I've been with Ross for 18 years, and I'm pleased over that time to have had a long-term relationship with FMEC over those years. And now in collaboration with our sister school, American University of the Caribbean, we share common missions, as I said, in terms of the family medicine workforce and addressing healthcare disparities. I trained in the Southwest at the University of Arizona, then that's where I went to medical school, did my family medicine residency in Southern California and practiced there for a number of years. As you mentioned, Larry, we had met during my time at HRSA when I served as a director of the Division of Medicine. And I've had some opportunities to be affiliated with various medical schools during my tenure in practice as a family physician. I currently, as I mentioned, have been with Ross for a number of years, and like Dr. Taylor, I'm very excited about our mission, which is to educate physicians to practice high quality medicine in the United States, and specifically to to educate physicians who choose primary care careers, and even more specifically, to choose family medicine as a career option and work in places where they can, our graduates can offer services and improve the quality of care for our patients. So I've gotten to know a lot of programs through the FMEC as well as nationally throughout my travels. Currently, I work directly with our hospital partners at ACGME training programs to direct the clinical and clinical education and training for our students. And when I can, and I try to make that very frequent, I also volunteer at a homeless clinic here in Miami. Next slide, Dr. Taylor.
So now that you've had a little bit of background about the two of us, we wanted to present some general information about the two schools, two sister schools together.
Yes, so this next slide, as Larry, you were alluding to, we're proud of our contribution to family medicine residency programs and the family physician workforce. And this is a snapshot of the 2020 National Residency Matching Program and matches into family medicine. So if you look at the slice of the pie, about a third of all family medicine residencies are comprised of both U.S. international medical graduates and non-U.S. international medical graduates. And what do we mean by that? Essentially, U.S. IMGs are permanent residents or citizens of the United States. And that is essentially the workforce that grew up in the United States, went to school in the United States, and then went to medical school at Ross and ultimately want to come back and practice in the United States. The right pie chart looks specifically at US IMGs. And so put together, Ross and AUC contribute up 31%, consistently over 30% to the overall US IMG contribution and graduates that go into family medicine. So we play a substantial role in terms of providing qualified graduates into family medicine residency programs. The next slide, I think, is going to demonstrate more overall all applicants to family medicine residencies, and this includes all IMGs. So the IMG contribution to residency programs is about 28%, 28-30%. At least in 2020, it was 28%. And if we look at the slice of the pie here in terms of overall contribution, when you take all international medical graduates in consideration, Ross and AUC together contribute about 20% toward the family medicine residency programs and ultimately practicing in the United States and the family medicine workforce.
And this is our shared commitment as two sister schools that are dedicated to medical education. And we take, we're really interested in having service-oriented students and very diverse, that come from very diverse backgrounds, and putting them into international medical education settings and achieving outcomes that are on par with our US school counterparts. So, and we'll share with you today data around USMLE exams and residency to demonstrate that numerically. We really are committed as institutions to strong pipelines of diverse physicians. So that concept of global awareness and social responsibility is in every aspect of their four-year training. And that really resonates with me as a family physician. The diversity, and here you can see one statistic represented, Ross graduates more Black physicians than any other US school. And proudly, 88% of our graduates practice direct patient care in low income areas. That's a astonishing number are, and almost half practice in shortage areas. So our product, as we'll explain to you, our graduates are proud of our product, are typically primary care physician clinicians who practice in primary care and in shortage areas. This just represents numerically what I just said. Every family physician knows, every physician knows, as the US population grows, we need more and more primary care physicians. I'm not sure how many times I've heard Larry Bauer say that over the last 20 years, and it hasn't changed, and we're all working on it together. But this is incredible to me that 70% of our graduates in 2019 and 2020, that year, the 2020 match, 70% matched into primary care. And another important statistic is that nearly 60% of our graduates then go on to practice primary care. So particularly thinking about internal medicine, say, where you can go on to specialize. Our graduates don't do that as often. Some certainly do, but these are two important numbers we'd like you to remember. 70% of our graduates go into primary care, and 60%, which is almost double typical US medical schools, are practicing in primary care. We also want to show you our 40-year history. And we are two very established medical schools in the Caribbean. We have a combined alumni network of more than 22,000 alumni. So we want to show you not all of our alumni practice in the United States, but we wanted to show you this map just to give you a sense of where they are, which is all over, and to re-emphasize the point that they're in direct patient care settings and that they're in shortage areas. So that is a bit of overview about the two schools combined. And in the next section of the presentation, Dr. Fernandez and I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive on each of the schools. So we work very closely in collaboration. We also have some differences that's worth pointing out to you just as you get to know us. And these slides will be available for you to look at all of the details later about the program. I'm going to read this because I think it's incredibly important. This is AUC's mission. At American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine, our mission is to train tomorrow's physicians whose service to their communities and their patients is enhanced by international learning experiences, a diverse learning community, and an emphasis on social accountability and engagement. And this mission statement was redone as recently as 2019. And I think it really captures both the essence of AUC, but it resonates a lot with me as a practicing family physician as well. So you can see the connection there. Oh, apologies. So here's a little bit more of the dry information, but I think it's the content of our program. We start students 3 times per year. So we have students that start in September, which is more traditional. We also have a January and a May start. And so we have this in medical sciences is 5 semesters long. So we have this kind of 5-ring circus running all the time so that students can progress through. AUC has 2 campuses. One is on the island of St. Martin on the Dutch side, and one is in Northwest England. So we've got 2 medical sciences campuses. We are fully accredited. Our accreditors are the ACCM listed there. And what that does is it gives our students access to US federal financial aid. Our students go on and are eligible for licensure in all 50 states. A lot of the curriculum that we design is around that concept. We want to prepare our graduates to be able to practice anywhere in the United States, Puerto Rico, Canada, and we've recently opened a pathway to further training in the UK. Our curriculum is very similar to what you may be familiar with, a US modeled spiral curriculum, integrated systems, clinical skills training across the 4 years. So our students do their first 2 years on either our St. Martin campus or our UK campus. And then they have the choice of training in their clinical sciences in the US, the UK, or some combination of those two. We have 24 clinical affiliations, 17 of those are in the United States, and the rest are all over England. So it is very common, not the majority, but regular, that our students will go and do their third year core clerkships in the National Health Service training system, and then come back and do all their clinical electives in the American system, and really have had the perspective of training in 3 different countries and 3 different health systems during their medical school. And so at this point, AUC has more than 7,000 alumni, graduates, and representing 78 countries. So very proud of our international heritage. And I'll give you just one example, because we always, students first, always. So I'm not going to read every word of this, but here's a recent graduate from AUC. And just the points here are that, you know, she came to AUC because of the profound influence that her own family physician had on her existence. So she started medical school with a passion for family medicine, and an understanding from her own personal experience of how impactful a family doctor could be in her life and her family's life. And so she talked about this throughout medical school, and it was an absolute privilege to watch her go through her training so steadfastly passionate about family medicine, and then be able to match year before, at her first choice residency program in the Northeast. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Fernandez to give you a similar framework for Ross.
Thanks very much. Our stories are very similar. We both have similar missions and just slightly different flavors. We are both part of the same institution, Attainment Global Education. And so we are sister schools that work collaboratively together. And the same way that Dr. Taylor did, I'd like to read our mission statement, because it's one of which I'm very proud, and I think really tells our story in terms of what we do. Our main emphasis is to educate doctors who serve communities in need. So Ross University School of Medicine prepares highly educated students to become competent and caring physicians. We do this by focusing on imparting the knowledge, skills, and values required for our students to establish a successful and satisfying career as a physician. And so this is what I'd like to emphasize. Ross, and my being part of Ross, we're very proud to fulfill a social mission by educating doctors who practice in primary care, work in medically underserved areas, and are more representative overall of the communities in which we serve. And I'd like to harken back or reference back to the slide that Dr. Taylor showed, which came from the Graham Center, and that looked at and was just an update was provided from the 2016 slide, or the analysis. And the slide that Dr. Taylor showed really speaks to both Ross and AUC's footprint or presence in underserved communities, rural and underserved communities, healthcare shortage areas. And we serve this mission in a way that includes a diverse population of physicians who mirror America. And we're very proud of that. Ross University was found, we just celebrated our 40th anniversary in 2018. At the time, and during the last 2 years, we've had a major relocation due to Hurricane Maria's effects on the island of Dominica. We've been located in the island of Barbados now, country of Barbados, for since 2019. So this is our second year where we have a presence in terms of our basic science campus in Barbados. Our students do 2 years of basic sciences. We have a similar start dates that AUC has in terms of January, May, and September, September being the traditional start. We have held longstanding accreditation by first the Dominican Medical Board and now the Caribbean Accreditation Authority for Education in Medicine and Other Health Professions, CAMHP. Why is that important? Because our accreditor holds us to similar standards in terms of LCME schools with regard to the delivery of a program of medical education. And also our accreditor is overseen and has the approval of the United States Department of Education. And that allows our graduates essentially our students actually to receive federal financial aid for their medical education and training under the Federal Direct Student Loan Program. Same as AUC, our graduates are eligible for licensure in all 50 states. And our curriculum, we feel, is cutting edge. It also focuses on the evolution of curriculum, which is emphasizes more active learning and students developing self-directed learning and lifelong learning as principles of their ongoing professional development. We then do have placements in different hospitals at ACGME accredited programs similar to AUC. And a majority of our students train 90 weeks. They do their clinical 90 weeks, both cores and electives, alongside other students from US schools, and we also partner with AUC for delivery of the curriculum at different sites. We have a proud tradition of graduates over the last 40 years. We have more than 15,000 alumni. And again, many of those who practice family medicine. And same as Dr. Taylor, one of the proudest moments and happiest moments of my time with Ross is every year when we have graduation and our graduates cross the stage and receive their diploma, and we happily celebrate their residency placement. So our graduates are well-rounded individuals such as Ms. Boggs, who essentially have a service orientation. Not only do they acquire the knowledge and skills to practice medicine, go into residency, but they also have a social commitment. And I'm very proud of that, both in terms of forming family medicine interest groups and in terms of networking with family medicine organizations, both at the local, state, and national level. And many of our grads from Ross and AUC become chief residents and actually become faculty at family medicine programs and continue that tradition of leadership and commitment to the values of serving our communities. So next slide, I think, is also mine. We're gonna talk a little bit now about just looking at a glance, looking at our two schools in terms of some of the outcomes and what our student bodies look like respectively. So we both have a holistic approach to admissions. And what do we mean by that? Certainly we look at MCAT scores and what that portends in terms of somebody being able to enroll and succeed in the medical curriculum. However, we look at other characteristics of the individual. Again, their social commitments, their well-roundedness, and just that spirit and commitment to becoming a physician and giving back to their communities. We are proud of our diversities. We have a significant distribution, representation of underrepresented minorities. Many of our students are career changers, or actually or come from non-traditional families, as it were. But then also many of them are the first in their families to attend college and medical school. And you can see that both of our schools are comprised, about 90% or so are US citizens or permanent residents, and another several percent of our student body makeup are Canadians, and then we do have some international students. Our female to male ratio is is similar to LCME schools. As Dr. Taylor mentioned, that diversity includes a high percentage of Black and African American students and Hispanic students at both of our institutions, and other underrepresented minorities. And so that tells our story a little bit about who we recruit and who comes into our school and who we graduate. The next slide is going to talk a little bit more about just some of the things. Yeah.
Apologies for interrupting. Just one point about before we leave this slide is that at AUC we even have a scholarship for students who are the first to attend medical school. It's a really important consideration.
Yeah, same here. Thank you for mentioning that. We have a scholarship for first-time attendees, and before I talk about this slide, I'd also like to mention that Ross has some articulation agreements with historically Black colleges and universities, and also with Hispanic serving institutions, as serving as a pipeline for applicants to our medical school. And there's some scholarships that are available to those students as well when they enroll. And I think Dr. Taylor talked a little bit about just how we are US modeled curriculum. We are engaged in what academic medicine is doing in terms of responding to changes in the 21st century with regard to medical education. We have state-of-the-art campuses at both schools with high fidelity simulation labs, and the ability to train our students in those, make them lifelong learners, and then also have our students have the ability to engage in active learning activities, small group activities, etc. It's important because also our students may not come as fully prepared. Some of them they may not come as fully prepared. We really have an intensive approach to essentially helping to tutor students in academic learning environment, which favors or which really stresses helping students to become lifelong learners, to acquire the information. As I mentioned, we have intensive clinical skills training that begins in first semester. That includes, and this is for both schools, that includes early community engagement, that includes intensive clinical skills training that builds on each semester. And there are some international training opportunities, more so at AUC than at Ross, but we, again, as sister schools, are collaborating on offering opportunities for our students to train in the UK. And both schools are affiliated with ACGME programs that offer global health opportunities as electives. And we think this is, again, important in terms of having well-rounded graduates who have that. Strong emphasis on community service, both while in basic sciences, foundations of medicine, and then also ongoing into the clinical years in terms of working with our clinical partners at hospital sites to have our students engage in the community, to do some projects and activities that really help to understand some of the health disparities and to address some of those health disparities as well. So I think that tells our story in a nutshell, and we can go on to the next slide.
I'll give you one example from AUC about community service. Is that one day every semester, the entire AUC community that's training and living and working in St. Martin gets together, partners with multiple organizations, has some people come to campus, some people leave campus and go help with other projects, Community Action Day. And it is just a signature event for our St. Martin campus that happens once a semester and has tremendous engagement from the entire AUC community there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's a great mission and a great story, and similar parallels. So thanks for mentioning that, Dr. Taylor.
Yeah. So we wanted to turn to some of our outcomes, right? We've talked about how the students are the center of our universe, and how invested we are in their success. And there are really two points on this slide. as takeaways. One is, and this is looking specifically at USMLE Step 1, and students from both of our schools take all of the STEP exams as graduation requirements when they're available. And so looking at Step 1, for me, the take-homes are that Ross and AUC students are absolutely competitive with outcomes for US medical students. So very much on par in terms of their academic outcomes at the end of their medical sciences training, which is when our students take their USMLE Step 1. And a second point here is that there is a huge range of international schools, there's more variability among those schools, which are very, very diverse. And I would like to folks to understand that AUC and Ross students are more academically compatible in terms of our outcomes on Step 1 with our US schools than with all international schools.
Yes, so sometimes we get painted with broad brushstrokes in terms of Caribbean schools, and we like to distinguish ourselves or make the distinction that, again, to maintain our accreditation and to maintain the quality of our program, our mission is to have a curriculum that mirrors LCME requirements in terms of medical foundations and clinical science training, and the outcomes, again, in terms of student attainment of not only high first-time pass rates, but actually high first-time scores in terms of the average score.
And you can see these are data from the last 2 years, and this is a long-standing pattern. Switching gears, so we talked about Step 1. I want to have you understand where AUC and Ross fit in terms of residency attainment. So if the US seniors, their match rates in 2020, 93.7, you can see where Ross and AUC are in the blue and the blue. Again, very competitive. We're very proud of our first time match rates, and you can see where the US DO seniors are, and in totality where other international medical graduates fit. So we feel that our first time residency attainment rates are very competitive with US medical schools. Do you want me to take this one, Dr.
Sure.
Fernandez?
I kind of thought that was yours. I wasn't, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to talk a little bit about just what happens in terms of residency placements and things of that nature. So please go for it.
Wonderful. So we've talked a lot about medical school. We've talked about performance during medical school. Now to really focus on the match. One takeaway here is AUC and Ross graduate a lot of new physicians. 641 physicians graduated from AUC and Ross last year. 641, more graduates than that, but 641 went into primary care residency training programs. So these are the students who are applying to your programs. And you can see more of the detailed numbers there. It's really 1,000 graduates, roughly, that the two schools graduated with 2/3 of those going into primary care. 2/3 is up to 71%. So, and then you can see in the absolute numbers, the number of students, new physicians who are now interns in family medicine residency programs. So 76 from AUC and 185 from Ross. So again, I think this is one of the reasons that Larry wanted us to have this conversation, is because of the impact that the two schools are having ultimately on the primary care workforce, but to focus here on the 2020 residency match.
And the next slide tells the big story here. So
this is the punchline.
So we both won it. We both arm wrestled for this, and Dr. Taylor won. So go ahead and sum it up, Dr. Taylor.
I think this is incredible. So we've talked about the whole trajectory, a 40-year history, our students, the experience that they get during medical school. I think this is a one of our absolute prides and joys is the fact that AUC and Ross together over 1 decade, 10 years, have put 3,200 students, graduates, into family medicine. And that's just, it's one of the legacies of the schools together. We're very, very proud of that number. And also that close to 30% of our practicing alumni are in family medicine. And how many family medicine doctors, both in terms of the percentage of the whole class, in terms of the absolute impact on the primary care workforce, both within the United States and globally, because our graduates are practicing around the world. So we like this one a lot.
It's what makes us happy to wake up every day and go to sleep at night, satisfied with the work that we do, and very grateful for our students and what our institutions do for our students. So continuing that proud tradition.
Well said. All right, Larry, I think those were the highlights of what we wanted to cover, and we're happy to share these slides with you and with FMEC. You're on mute.
I am. I can think of a very significant percent of chairs of family medicine at our nation's medical schools, the U.S. medical schools, who would give their right arm to have the kind of outcomes that you've delivered. You know, it's just so impressive. I know a number. In fact, we have one of our board members is a Ross graduate, Dr. Sarah Fernandez, Ramirez, I'm sorry, at Penn State Hershey, and just incredibly competent, full scope family medicine, doing C-sections there in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which was unheard of before she came to Penn State. So one issue I would like to ask you to comment on, I'm glad to hear about the scholarships that you have. I had not heard that before. But one of the issues that some individuals raise about your schools is you are for-profit institutions, and your tuitions, I don't know your actual tuitions. You know, how do they compare with the tuitions for U.S. schools? And in terms of the indebtedness of your student graduates, how do they compare, their rates of indebtedness compare to those of students from U.S. schools?
Okay, you want to take that, Julie, or I can also answer that a little bit.
Why don't you go ahead and start, but I think it would be important for both of us to comment.
Sure. So cost of medical education has gone up a whole lot since I was a medical student many years ago. Not only in Caribbean schools since they were established and our schools were established, but also at LCME schools in general, even state schools or public schools. But what we have to say about this is that we are not, neither Ross nor AUC are the most expensive medical schools when compared to LCME schools, and we're not the least expensive. I think we fall somewhere there in the middle, and our tuition rates are at about the mean or median rates for private US medical schools, LCME schools. And the other thing that I have to say about that is, yes, our students incur a debt. So do US LCME students as well. I wish we could do something about that for all of the students, and to have some process for loan deferment and some being able to have some benefits for practicing in underserved areas and health professions shortage areas. Certainly our graduates take advantage of some of those opportunities, but there are not enough of those. And so, yes, our graduates incur a debt through medical school, but the default rates on Title IV loans, federally Title IV loans, are very, very small. less than, I think, 0.1%. Don't hold me to that, but I know that it's far less than 1%. So I think that's the same for AUC. Did you want to add to that?
And part of our regulations require us to track that incredibly closely, and it's a very important number, and it's to the right of the decimal point. Just to reemphasize, I think it's very important. The tuition is on par, and the debt is on par in the range of what's happening in U.S. schools. There, you mentioned at the beginning for profit. We manage large budgets and we're single mission schools. So it's actually very straightforward. And I feel really comfortable with the fact that the tuition that our students pay goes directly to their education. There's no there's no clinical mission, there's no research mission. So the tuition goes directly to medical education, and that is what we do. And part of what we do for our students to help mitigate their debt is to do built into their curriculum both required and optional opportunities for financial literacy. I think that's really important for any 21st century physician.
Yeah, so, and just a slightly tangential comment that I'd like to make, but I think it's an important one. We do emphasize an educational mission. Our faculty are all dedicated toward education. They don't have to derive income or compensation from either clinical work or research. However, our faculty are role models in terms of delivering care to patients directly, and our faculty really value scholarly activity, and we think that's important even for very important for family medicine, because STFM and others have contributed greatly to and informed the medical education around many important issues. And so we're very pleased that STFM allows both students from both schools to be participants, to be a part of student membership of STFM without a fee or tuition. And we can both cite stories about how we help foster our students' growth and development and engagement in scholarly work and presentations, both at the pre-doctoral conference and at the STFM national conference, and actually also at state society meetings and other CME type activities.
One other issue I'd like you to comment on. There are some residency directors who I've talked to who believe that the students who graduate from your school have some difficulty passing the exams in order to complete their residency training. And do you track that? Do you know what the rate of completion for folks who get into a family medicine residency program in particular is?
I don't know that we have specific or detailed granular data about that. I will tell you that from our experience, we know that our graduates complete their full 3 years of training. They pass their family medicine boards. They pass step 3 on the way to that. And I don't know of any data that speaks to the contrary with regard to that. Our graduates, when they enter residency, they're there to stay. Very few rare occasions where they don't progress through the residency training program. So they are valuable contributors to the team. And I don't think that residency program directors should fear or be worried about hiring Ross or AUC grads into their residency. They're gonna contribute equally or more so to the reputation of the program, and to, again, successfully graduate and pass the boards. What do you think, Dr. Taylor?
I would agree with you. I don't know that we specifically track success on subsequent exams after graduation. We feel really comfortable that we've prepared them. We showed you some of our USMLE Step 1 data. Our Step 2 CK data is on par with that. So we feel comfortable that we've trained them to pass exams. Also, one other point is that our graduates, we talked about how they start at different times. They also finish at different times. So a lot of our graduates just go and take Step 3 and pass it before they start their residency program. So that's something to look out for, and one fewer exam to take during residency.
Yeah, and another thought that came to mind that we might collaborate with FMEC on, or some other organization, Larry, is to maybe look at in-training exam performance and compare residents. And I bet you that performance rates are very similar.
So there's one other comment I'd like to offer, and that is of the graduates from your two schools who I've gotten to know through my many years working in family medicine, they are a tough, resilient, determined group of people. Many of them tried to get into US schools first and were not accepted because US medical schools don't really value, in many cases, the kind of person and the kind of learner, and they're not prepared to provide support to people if they came from disenfranchised backgrounds, if you like. So they are determined to be docs and determined to be family physicians. And that's exactly the kind of people that I think our country needs. So I would just like to say congratulations. And the reason that I wanted to record this is so we can get the message out to others. I think there are things that US schools can learn from the work that you're doing. You know, people are talking about trying to increase the rates of students choosing careers in family medicine across the US. You folks are doing some things that just make such good sense that the other schools should actually be modeling the work that you're doing. So I just say thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate the resiliency point. And it's a word sometimes our students ask us to use less frequently because because they are and they embody it. Our students at AUC, many of them who were studying on our St. Martin campus went through Hurricane Irma, and that's a group that's in the 2021 match now. Dr. Fernandez's students went through Hurricane Maria, many of them. Obviously, we're all in a global pandemic now. We don't have the luxury of making as many adjustments as some of the US schools have been able to do. We have very strict rules and regulations from our accreditors, and we've had to really be uncompromising in our clinical sciences delivery, even in spite of the pause in the spring. So we do feel really confident that they are adaptable, resilient, tough to phase new physicians coming.
Yes, thank you. I agree. And thank you for pointing that out, Larry. It's much appreciated. And, you know, we're colleagues across the two schools. We have quite a few faculty, both in medical science, as part of our also network of clinical science faculty who are family physicians and have a long tradition working with FMEC, STFM, and academic family medicine, and also proud members of the FAAFP.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you both for this presentation, and I look forward to seeing what more work we can do and how we can get in trouble together as we try to change things in the United States. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.